Redding is a beautiful place. We have national parks in 3 different directions, 2 world-class lakes. This is a sportsman's paradise, but it's also full of wonderful people. We have business leaders, community leaders, faith-based leaders, all of them working towards a singular goal, and that's to make this a great place to live. I wanted to showcase these people, give their perception of the place that they call home. This is allredding.
Nora, I want to welcome you here today to allredding.
Oh, thank you.
I am excited to have you here. We've got to have a little bit of conversation, but not much. So I'm actually excited just to have a chat together and you to get to share some of your story. And I think our area is very blessed to have you.
Thank you.
Now, when we started chatting, it sounds like you started in a different area and then made your way up here. So how long have you been doing this in the Redding area?
Well, my late husband and I moved to Shasta County in 1979.
Okay.
And I practiced for about 3.5 years before that in Ventura County, down in Southern California.
What brought you up this way?
Well, my late husband wanted to go to a physician's assistant program that they had at Shasta College.
Huh.
And so we moved up here for that. And we got here in May and found out that summer that they were canceling the program. So he decided to become an RN. But I mean, that's what brought us.
Yeah,
up
and you
here.
stayed anyways.
We stayed and really loved the area. I had some good friends. Actually, the second birth that I ever attended down in Ventura County, she and her partner had lived up here, moved down there for a period of time, and then moved back up here. So we came up to visit them and fell in love with it and decided to go home. We put our house on the market. It sold full price. We had like 3 offers on it. Never even got listed.
All worked out.
It just happened.
Yeah.
So within 6 weeks of the decision, totally was a thing where we felt God's movement in our lives. And we moved up here.
1979. So you've seen a lot of change.
In
Shasta County.
Yes, change in Shasta County. Yes, a lot of
Seen a lot of
structural
things.
change and
That's actually really true.
Yeah.
And a lot of change probably in your field. We were just having a kind of fun chat about when you first started. What made you go rogue? Because when you first started, it wasn't legal to do birth the way that you did it. Is that how you would phrase that?
I don't even know when the actual licensure procedure began in California, but before the late 40s, there was a mechanism for midwives to be licensed. They called them kind of domiciliary midwives. I don't know if those midwives actually had to have professional training or not, but they attended births in people's homes. In the late 40s, what happened at the state level was that there was the licensing board and the practice guidelines were intact. But what they did is dissolve the board. So they didn't actually take licenses away. They just stopped issuing them.
Okay.
And so once all those midwives were no longer practicing, it just was a lost art, basically.
Form. So do you think, and so that's so interesting to me. So from there, women were probably used to doing it in their home and it pushed it into
pushed
hospitals.
Everybody basically to go into the hospital.
Without any real conversation, it sounds like. They just
No,
stopped.
it was really medical. Well, at that time, obstetrics was very male-dominated. And so it was more, I think, from their perspective, I think they honestly believed that it was a safer way to have a baby.
Okay.
And in high-risk situations, that's very true. Not so true with low-risk women. So anyway, anybody that practiced midwifery after that board was disbanded was then practicing medicine without a license, is what they termed it.
So what made you decide to do it? So like those licenses ran out?
I actually didn't
hospitals?
decide to do it.
No?
My late husband and I went to be trained as childbirth educators.
Okay.
And while we were at this training, there were all these people there that were attending home births and calling themselves midwives, and they didn't have licenses. And I was like, wow, that is pretty amazing, because I felt their passion for what they were doing, their commitment to what they were doing, and realized that it was a really important thing that they were doing.
Mhm.
And so we came home from this childbirth education training. I had to start a childbirth class. So there was a woman from our church that came to our classes. I actually didn't know her before she came to the class. And she was sharing with a group how frightening her first 2 hospital births were. Spinal anesthesia, not getting to be with her baby, a variety of things that were frightening to
Well, and
her.
hospitals are a little scary
Intimidating.
themselves.
Yeah. So I kind of really jokingly said to her, well, you should have your next one at home. Well, they went home and prayed about it. They came back the next week and said, that's what we want to do. Will you help us? And I'm like, and so we had some prayerful dialogue together. It wasn't just like, oh, sure. It wasn't a flippant thing. I definitely wanted to be sure that this was something serious. That is this what God wants me to do? And on top of it all, as a Christian, I really believed that it was a spiritual responsibility to obey the law of the land. Yet I had that aspect of it, but then there was this part of it. But these women, they needed the opportunity to have their babies however they chose to. That having just one model of care wasn't acceptable to me.
When we took a model of care away without really
giving women an option.
Right. And I think we've felt that tension in the last 6-7 years, right? Of like, what's right, what's not, and where should we stand in the middle of that? I mean, it's come up again in different ways, right?
So it was a real moral struggle for me, honestly. But after I helped her, a woman who I was in a natural food co-op with had heard about it, and this was my later dear friend, heard about me, and she said, well, we're just planning to do it ourselves, but you want to come and just hang out and be with us? I was like, sure, if you're going to be doing it yourself, I'll do that. Literally after I was involved with those 2 births, I started within, I would say, 6 weeks, I was starting to get phone calls that people had heard that I was a midwife. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute.
Slow down.
This is...
Were you still wrestling with whether you should be doing this a little bit?
Yeah, well, and I didn't feel like having that particular title was really something that I deserved or was equipped to call myself necessarily. I didn't really know. I didn't know exactly how it was defined personally when there was no real legal description of it, right?
Yeah.
Now, at that same time, when individuals who were registered nurses and went on to do advanced study, they became certified nurse midwives, and they were scarcely available in California at that time. I don't remember any in my area in Southern California. There was a woman named Candace Fields who was one of the first nurse midwives here in California. She was up at Trinity General Hospital. She was practicing when I moved up to this area. And so I think that at that point, pretty much the medical community said, well, we don't need people like you because we have certified nurse midwives.
Whereas the phone calls were telling you different.
But the care that certified nurse midwives what they were offering was still the medical model of care.
Right.
And they had to function directly under physician. So all they were was an extension of what the doctor was telling them to do.
Right.
So it didn't solve the problem for people that didn't want the medical model of care for their births.
Right. Which even without the medical model of care, as someone who's been through more surgeries than I care to talk about, I've come to learn that sometimes you want the nurse's answer more than the doctor's answer, if you will. I love my doctors, but there's a difference too in a woman's care and a woman understanding a woman, if I can be so bold. And so it sounds like your phone started ringing because there was people wanted that. It was missing. So the first birth was in October of 75. We moved to Shasta County in May of 79. And in that short period of time, I attended close to 100 births down there. Wow.
It was explosive. I mean, I really was shocked that
I'm thinking that's a lot of births per year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was pretty overwhelming.
And did you have to do any more training through that time, or where did you go with
I was
title
all self-taught. There wasn't any kind of training available. There were no schools for direct entry midwives.
Okay.
So I did have a licensed vocational nursing license.
Mhm.
And so I had some medical exposure, but I realized that I wanted to pursue the heart of what was the normal process for birth. Obviously, you've got to have a medical background in order to be able to, detect complications that might be arising and how to intervene if that's happening, and what can you do to stabilize the situation, or how do you transport somebody to get care. And so those transports were always a little challenging.
Right.
People really worked to cover my identity, which had to compromise. I think there were times it compromised their care. And back then, there was a lot of really nasty bullying that would happen to people that had to come in and seek medical care during their birthing process or afterward.
Because they hadn't just checked into the hospital instead.
Right. And
Yeah.
it was, I can tell you back then, it was really common that people would hear, well, this is what you get for trying to have a baby outside the hospital.
Do you think we've come far in that ideology?
It's better. I don't hear that anymore. But there's still a paternalism in the birthing environment that is troublesome to me, in that I want to be sure that people are really well educated to make informed decisions. They aren't my decisions. They belong to the individual person. And in healthcare in general, we're lacking in that. We're lacking in people really taking the time to be sure that the individual that's receiving the care has the opportunity to make truly informed decisions. Not just signing a form that says I consent, but what does that reflect?
And what other options are there?
And what other things, what are the other possibilities, instead of only presenting one option?
Where did the shift come to where you were legal? At what stage?
Yeah, so sometime in the 80s, the state legislature started looking, there was a push from the unlicensed midwives just to try and create a valid licensure process. And I think also the probably the public health department portion of it got involved, because I actually really felt like when they did do licensure, it was more a way of them knowing who was actually doing this stuff. Because when they first created licensure, what they did is they set it up so you had to go through this challenge process in order to be able to be licensed, because there weren't any midwifery schools in California. So they used Seattle Midwifery School to create a review process and a testing process to validate that you had enough experience and knowledge base to be licensable based on the standards of what they had set up. So I went through that route. Anyway, they created this.
And cons to that? I mean, I could see the idea that you'd want to know who's out there. Do they really have the experience? Are they, because someone like you did have the experience, and I think you wouldn't want someone who shouldn't be doing it. Doing it. So
It required
pros and cons.
It required physician documentation that I had experience, because I had a number of doctors that I had the privilege of working with that were wonderful. In fact, when I was in Ventura County, there was an obstetrician that was really interested in what I was doing. And he actually said, let's set up one morning a week where your home birth clients come and let's do prenatal care together. And I would love to come to some of their births. So that happened. I got hands-on training from him. He wasn't a doctor that practiced from a fear base. And so he was another piece of my puzzle. I also had a family physician. He and his wife had I think 4 home births in other areas where he was doing training, and then came to Ventura County for a family practice residency program there. They tried to get a doctor to help them have their 5th child, and nobody would do it.
Okay.
So, well, actually, somebody had committed, and then like 2 weeks before the due date, backed out.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then he came to me and said, will you do this? And I'm like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
Of course I will.
So it takes an open mind. What do you think the biggest difference is between what the normal setting offers and what you offer for a mom during the birth process?
I like to think of mine being the normal.
You know what? Fair.
And
Totally
the
fair.
medical model being mainstream.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
When I look at the difference in the environments, in mainstream childbirthing, culturally, we've accepted that this is how it's done, that you walk into a strange environment and you have strange people that are directing your behavior, and you have now, you don't even get the doctor that takes care of you. So you're surrounded potentially by all strangers. This is a sexual function of your body. So in a very vulnerable time for women, we're culturalized that that's how it's done.
Yeah, you have a different person walk in and ask you your name and your birth date
Right.
5 times,
Right.
right? Like, okay, nobody knows who I am in this room. This makes no sense.
You don't get to have people in the room necessarily that you want. You have to take off your personal clothes and put their clothes on. You're relegated to their bed. You lose control of your environment. You're told, well, you may or may not be able to eat or drink.
Yeah.
You may or may not be able to get up and walk. So women are disempowered. So when they step into an environment that I'm working in, I'm seeking out what they're looking for. I'm asking them, what's going to make this personalized for you? How can I facilitate that for you? And so I do have students that are working with me, and I let even my clients know if there's a personality thing with one of the students, it's okay to say, I'm really not comfortable having that person at my birth.
I like that.
And it's rare, but I've had that happen. I recognize that they are coming to me because they've chosen me to be there, but anybody else, they don't get to participate in that choice. So I really respect that.
Yeah.
And my students get it too.
Yeah. And do you do most of your births in the person's home, or do you have a facility? I actually don't know that answer.
So my many beginning years, I went exclusively to people's homes. I'm 74 years old now.
No, you're not.
And
I
so,
guess that.
so I had to, 15, 20 years ago, I had to start thinking about how can I have the stamina to keep doing this and also give myself good self-care. And so that was when I had a few people, because I have some big families. Part of our event is that we calculated, I have a couple people have had 6 babies with me, one that's had 7,
I love it.
5 that have had 8, and 1 that's had 9.
So that alone is a tribe of people.
Yeah, well, we figured one of my students counted it up. That's 68 kids that's involved.
Yeah.
I think. So
And that's
I
just
did
a
the
few.
math.
And how many, okay, I think you have the numbers, like how many families have you helped? How many babies have you?
So that big secret gets revealed at the event on Saturday night at the fairgrounds.
Fair.
We're holding that number just to share. I actually lost count quite a few years ago.
I was going to say, I don't know how, I don't know how you do it.
It's funny. I mean, in the beginning of a career like that, especially with being unlicensed, that number was really...
Count everyone.
Well, because that was part of how people could weigh that in their decision making. Does she have very much experience? How long has she been doing this? Kind of thing. So then when I got licensed, it became less...
Like they had to ask you about that.
And it was pretty cool because God just was like, I want you to just really savor this and enjoy it. And I don't want this to be anything about your ego. I don't want it to be about numbers. I want you to just
love what you do.
Love what you do and do it in my name. And I said, okay, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And so I've been without that number for a long time.
Okay, but it's coming back because we're celebrating 50 years. Is that right?
50 years of midwifery was 50 years back in the beginning of October last year.
Okay.
So now it's 50 plus.
Now, when you planned this event, you're inviting everybody from up in our area, I'm sure, because that's the majority. Did
Right.
you also reach out and invite anybody from down in Southern California?
Yes. In fact,
exciting.
there's a couple of adult babies that are going to be coming.
I bet.
They
Have
actually,
you done grandchildren? Like, wait, I didn't even think about this.
oh, I
You
have
help
quite a
people with their
few
grandchildren and
second generation
That's
families.
amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. They must feel like your family a little bit at that point.
In fact, Susie Smith, who was a flight nurse that we lost,
Mhm.
her first baby became my first second generation baby.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh
So
my gosh.
Susie and I were almost lifelong friends. We
Yeah, you have a
we met
history.
before she ever even had children.
Is another amazing one.
Yeah.
Right now, you were saying that some of the education you strive to give out is to have people look at what's natural, right? And like, how do animals do it? How do, like, if you want to talk more on that, because we weren't on camera yet.
Oh, okay. I feel like there's one thing I
Do
need
it.
to ask,
Yeah.
answer
I
what,
love that.
because I actually got licensed in, I think it was 1998.
Okay.
Because you had asked,
Yeah.
when did I
And
get
is
licensed?
that when they started licensing again? Did you do it
They
right
actually,
away?
I think, started in 94,
Okay.
but I was isolated up here. I wasn't real well informed.
Mhm.
And
We can be sometimes.
yeah, so and especially back then. And so I kind of heard about it through the grapevine. And,
Okay.
it took definitely some persistence to get all the documentation that they wanted. And the medical board was asking in
Mhm.
order to provide that licensure.
Was there any part of you that's like, I've been doing this for decades at that point? I don't even need to do this.
I mean, the thought of having to go back to midwifery school, I was like, no,
I
not
could teach
going
it.
there. I'm too independent in my own practice now.
Yeah.
And so when it was a challenge mechanism, I was like, yeah, I can do that. And so that's what I did.
Mm.
It was important to me. I had prayed for validity for what I was doing for a long time, and that I wouldn't have to work in, under behind the curtains.
Feel like a secret.
Yeah. I think it was in 87, maybe, I helped birth the first baby the new year.
Mm.
And, that was publicized, but it doesn't mention me.
So you don't get to take part of things that you were part of, really. It's probably what it
Yeah,
felt like.
I mean, it's great because that mom's, she goes to Valley Christian Family, and so it's nice to see her periodically. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
It just was very problematic for me that
Well,
there was
and
illegality
there's
involved.
not ego in that. I mean, when it's the work of our hands, we want to see the fruit of that and be able to say you were there and you did it,
Mhm.
right? Yeah.
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 It was kind of one of those badges that was sort of fun to hang on the wall. I mean, I have the little newspaper article about it.
Yeah.
I'll have that on display at the event. But
Super
yeah,
fun.
it's just little pieces of what my story's been.
Did you feel a difference when you got licensed? Anything change for you at all?
Yeah, I did feel a difference. There was now, instead of having to send people to a chiropractor or whomever that was supportive of what I was doing to get blood work done and so forth, I had a license that allowed me to order my own lab work, ultrasounds, that
That's
kind
a
of
big
stuff.
difference, actually.
It is a big difference because it expanded my ability to provide more in-depth care.
Did you feel like at that point you got to serve a bigger audience, or did that remain about the same? Do you have a limit?
Well, I've always really trusted God to bring whom He wants me to have in my life that way. And I've had seasons back in probably like 2013 to maybe 15, 16, somewhere around in there. I was helping well over 50 women a year, 50 to 70 women a year, which when I have
That's a lot of people to be on call for.
it's a lot of people. And I've lived my whole life always on call. Nobody can really unless you've done something like that, you have no comprehension of what that means. Do you get to ever go out of town? Do
Yeah,
you
that
get
was
to have,
literally where I was going to go next.
do
Yeah.
you miss important family events, which I've had to do,
Mhm.
family weddings and different things because I had somebody do. Yeah. And when I had my first child in the hospital, I was seeing an obstetrician down in Southern California, and his practice, he didn't share it with anybody,
Mhm.
but 1 weekend a month, he had somebody on call for him. So he could have that weekend off where he wasn't on call. Guess when I have my baby?
That weekend.
that weekend.
I've had that experience. And then you have a stranger.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is he had a glass eye. So, and he came in like, right, my son was crowning, ready to be born. If I'd known what I know now, I would have just pushed him out and said, well, here he is. But I was being the dutiful patient waiting for the doctor. Anyway, he walked in, and in those days, they just routinely did episiotomies, which is a surgical cutting of the vaginal opening. He did that, up shot my son because he was real ready to come out.
You're like, I could have
But
done
the
that.
whole time, this guy, I've never met him before. I don't even know at the time if I knew his name, and yet he delivered my son.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell if he was looking at me or somebody else because the eyes didn't work together. I'll never forget that.
You know, you describing that experience of the difference, I don't know if you guys could feel it, but it was a lot for me because I've been through stillbirth.
I'm sorry.
And now so has my daughter, and I walked her through it. And when you walk through that and 10 different people walk in and don't know the story and don't know the story and don't know the story, it is unheard of that a mother should have to retell the story and retell the story and retell the story. So even you saying that we kind of allow ourselves to walk through this unquestioning, this is how it's done, is kind of interesting. So it's amazing to hear someone say there's an alternative and people should hear about it. You know?
And what you said about that really resonated with me. I had a mom one time who was full term, called me and said, I'm not feeling my baby move. I've had this happen more than once, but this particular story, she called me and I said, she came over. I listened. I couldn't hear a heartbeat. I said, well, it could just be my equipment. Let's go into the hospital and let's have them check you out. So we went. They couldn't find a heartbeat either. And so an obstetrician came in, and it was the most horrible experience for me and the mom because he was standing in the corner of the room accepting personal phone calls and talking on his phone while this couple was having the worst day of their life. I was so angry, and I was trying to shield them from that atrocity because what the heck? I didn't even have
Are you
words.
not human? Are you not
Are you so detached from what the work that you do that you can't even have empathy in this moment?
Right.
And I think a lot of what was going on was he was projecting anger he had that I was a midwife into the scenario because I've never really been well accepted by the medical community, which, you know what, at the end of the day, I would like to have a collaborative relationship with mutual respect from both sides for the benefit of the families that are having babies.
Right.
It isn't about the doctors, and it's not about me.
Right.
It's about
Their
what our
choice.
goal
is
to support and facilitate healthy birth for people, however they want to pursue that. And when things don't go well, that's when more than ever people need incredible empathy.
Yeah. Well, and I think something you're saying, my younger sister has had several babies at home and without really much of anyone around. And like, I would rather know, okay, I have this midwife who's here. And then if something happens, they're going to help. Like, hey, it's time. Like we've got to do this, right? Then nothing at all. So the fact that the conversation can't be had, there needs to be the conversation, I think. And it's unfortunate, but we do that, right? We throw stones from the other side, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think the medical community has come around a lot further from where it was? Or do you think our area is any different than any other areas in that regard? Or we still have a ways to go?
It's kind of interesting that the horses keep circling. It's like, oh, for example, vaginal birth after a prior cesarean section.
Yeah.
So I've seen twice in my career where initially, once women started having C-sections, especially originally when they used to do a long incision up and down on the abdomen, which is a risky incision to have a vaginal birth after a C-section because the incision is up in what's called the contractive portion of the uterus, where the low-lying bikini cut incisions are not in the contracting part of the uterus. So initially, all women were considered, no, that's way too high risk. The old school incision.
Right, so then it's just, you're not even talking about it.
So then back in the 80s, in the late 70s, all of a sudden this whole idea of vaginal birth after cesarean became a conversation. And then people started acting on it. And statistics were gradually being collected that said, no, less than 1% of women attempting a vaginal birth after a previous cesarean have the risk of a catastrophic event. It's around 1%. Catastrophic event meaning that the uterus could open up.
Okay.
When they talk about uterine rupture, it's kind of funny because it makes it sound like this huge explosion of the uterus. But in actuality, if there's any separation of the uterine scar tissue, then that's considered a rupture of the uterus.
Okay.
Not always a life-threatening event for the mother or baby. And so it can happen. Mom might have a little more extra bleeding, but it doesn't become eventful.
Right.
So though we have a much smaller percentage of women that are at risk for that catastrophic event.
So there's a conversation that should be had. They should get to choose.
Yes. And so there was, after that initial interest in it, then hospitals did start providing VBACs, dependent upon the location of where it was happening. And then it kind of, I think that there were events that happened that caused the medical profession to withdraw from that. In my practice, everything's really about nutrition. I realize that, number one, babies are being made out of whatever mom's eating. Mom's tissues are made out of whatever she's eating. So, for example, in a VBAC situation, nutrition is going to help build the structure of the uterus. And it's always interesting because that factor I never hear it weighed in the equation.
No.
And in my mind, it's the most important variable that has the opportunity to ensure integrity of the uterine structure during a VBAC. I don't know any doctors that exercise that opportunity and help women with that, but it's a huge part of my practice because I feel like it impacts everything. It impacts.
And you probably see it impact things.
I definitely do.
In all of this, as I'm thinking about this and listening, this is a lot of like Western culture put on how birth is done, right? Like,
exactly.
So when you look at it, I'm imagining you kind of have an idea of this stuff. Like around the world, is it done the same way? Like, are most births in hospital? Like, or is there midwives, or how are they doing it in other countries?
Actually, a much greater proportion of the world utilizes midwives for normal birth. Doctors are the overseers of complicated births or complicated pregnancies and births. But the majority of women around the world give birth with a midwife. And our infant mortality statistics and our maternal mortality statistics in the US are kind of scary. People think that because we spend so much money on healthcare, that we are improving the outcome for mothers and babies. When I first started helping women give birth at home, we were ranked 19th in the world. The last time I looked, we were like 32nd, and I think it's gotten worse.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're spending the money on technology in childbirth when really we need to spend money on addressing quality nutrition for moms, preventing diabetes during pregnancy by quality nutrition. I basically have all my clients eat as though they're on a diabetic diet so that they are super healthy and well fed when they have their babies. We want nutrient density, not calorie density. And so I've had some obese women actually lose weight during their pregnancy and grow like an 8.5 pound kid. And the moms are radiant and healthy. When they first come to me, they're not. And in the medical model, that wouldn't be okay.
Well, because it sounds like you're educating the person.
Right.
Whereas the medical system's looking at just getting the baby out.
Well, and they're looking, they have these parameters that they set. Well, a mom should gain about 1 pound per week of pregnancy, but not educating them on what those pounds should represent.
Right. Don't just try to gain weight.
Yeah, don't just gain weight.
Yeah.
But in the past, I think it's beginning to change, but physicians weren't required to have any nutritional education in their training. And so when we were looking at health and well-being, how can you do it without that? That's how I feel about it. And it makes a difference. I think that if you want to have a normal pregnancy and a robust, healthy baby, you have to think about the building materials that you're building this baby out of.
That makes sense. I always tease my children that they took some of my brains, and then I was reading that article that it's actually kind of true. Like you only have so much, and that goes to your kids during your pregnancy, right? So whatever we're made up of is going to those kids. That is what they're...
Yeah, I mean, what you're consuming, the only real thing that your body surrenders is calcium from your bones. Okay. There may be some other micronutrients and stuff, but calcium is one thing that women will, their teeth and their bones will get demineralized during pregnancy, and then kind of can be a precursor to osteoporosis later on, because it's really hard to get minerals back into your bones once they lose it.
Okay, so I can blame that on my children.
Well, there's a genetic factor in there too, but nope, you have to blame it on yourself because you made choices that didn't protect yourself
during it. Yes, that
but
makes
you didn't
total
have.
sense.
I'm sure you didn't have the information.
No, I was going to say it's so funny having 5 kids and then getting this information later in life, right? Or, the first time I saw a birth was my sister having my niece, and I remember it was the first time I watched, and I was like, "You're so amazing. I can't believe what you just did." And she looked at me and she's like, "You've done it 5 times." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I have." Like, it didn't even dawn on me, right? So what you do to me is incredible, watching women. Like, women are, it's amazing. The whole thing's amazing, and it should be honored, and it should be something that you're so right, where we're picking the environment we're doing it, how we want to do it, who we want to do it with, who's in the room. So that makes a lot of sense. And it's funny looking at it in reverse. You know, I lived a lot of my life, to your point, just this is how you do it. You know, what would you say to future people who want to be midwives? Or what, if you were to look 10 years down the road from this, what would you like to see the birthing community change to be more like?
Well, you know, it's kind of interesting. I always tell my clients, don't watch human birth videos. And the reason why I tell them that is because if you watch other mammals, you are not seeing a birth that's inoculated with fear. Other mammals work very hard, just like humans do, to labor and give birth, but they don't start panicking, screaming, running, all the things that women do to try and avoid the reality of what they're feeling, or medicate. And of course, medications have their own series of side effects that can drastically change the course of a woman's labor. Even epidurals can bottom out of mom's blood pressure, then the baby's heart rate tanks out, and then the mom has to have a C-section.
I don't think we talk about that enough.
No, I don't think we do either. There's studies too that talk about chronic back issues from having epidural, and yet it's treated like the Cadillac of childbirth. Why wouldn't you want your epidural?
So the very thing we're running from, often the pain, is the thing we need to learn how to actually use.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I approach women in labor, that you have choices in labor. You can allow fear to be your driver that pushes you into more fear as you move along. Because as the process intensifies, if you're afraid when you start or even before you're in labor, it's only going to be magnified incredibly at the end of the process. So I really work with women and talk to them about, let's not choose that path. I'll let you choose it, but you'll be very dissatisfied. I want to help you go down a path that's going to give you empowerment. Kind of like what you experienced seeing your sister give birth. You got empowered. You finally realized, wow, but your birth experiences, it sounds like, because they were regulated and controlled, you didn't get to step into that level of empowerment as well.
Right.
And so that's something that's really important to me, is to empower women to give birth, empower their partners to support them. And so that's where I would love to see all birthing move in that direction. You can work to empower people even in complicated situations, but it's not really exercised that I see in the medical model.
Right. It's more, let's take away the pain, just get this done and over with.
Yeah, or even situations that deviate from normal.
Yeah.
When people do exercise their right to be decision makers, oh, look out.
That's true.
And I get to witness that a lot.
I bet you do. I bet you do. One thing I don't know how we haven't touched on it, because we're both women of faith, is where your faith comes into all of this. And do you share that with most or all of your clients? I mean, I'm sure that's where a lot of your empowerment comes from. Is that?
Yeah, I think as I've continued on as practice 50 years, it's been pretty amazing. And probably I'd say in like the last 5 years that I've felt a level of boldness that I didn't used to feel. I used to think, well, I don't want to offend anybody or do anything that
Here's this illegal midwife and she doesn't want to offend anybody. No.
No, I mean, I'm thinking about even when I was licensed. And, wanting to be liked by people and all of those things that I had to wrestle with. And, now I can give you an example. I had a client that I could see even during her pregnancy that she was a person of wanting to have an orderly life and having all her ducks in a row. And I've learned that those mothers are setting themselves up for real big challenges in labor, because labor is something you have no control over. And so when she was in labor, she was wrestling with it. And finally I said to her, you got to stop trying to think you can control this, because you're really being a control freak. And her eyes opened up and she goes, are you going to call me on that? And I'm like, yeah. And she started crying and thanked me.
Yeah.
So I've been stepping more into that place with my clients. And wow, the Holy Spirit has really, stuff comes out. And then they'll say, can you repeat that? And I'm like, I don't remember what I said. I mean, because it wasn't it wasn't a thought that I processed and created. It was something that I feel like God was just using me to be a voice. And so it is challenging. It's interesting with fellow believers, because birthing really challenges what faith means to them. And that's where that choice comes in. Are you willing to truly believe that God created you to do this, that when you were conceived, he put that potential inside of your little body, in that little uterus that's being created. You live your life. All of a sudden, that potential comes to life, and you're going to grow a baby and give birth to a baby. And are you ready and willing to trust him to do all that process for you and not fight back and not try and jump into the fear bandwagon? Because we know where fear comes from. It's the antithesis of faith. And so it's an opportunity for me to use pregnancy and birthing, I've learned, to really spiritually give people a boost.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really exciting.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say, was it her first baby? Because as soon as you have them,
First
then
baby.
then you really understand how much control you do not have.
Right.
Once they're out, that's real.
Yes. And lately, God's brought me a whole bunch of first babies, which I actually had thought back in, I think, like 2015, I was going to retire. Friends threw a surprise retirement party for me and everything. And then that didn't happen. And
the phone just kept ringing. Is that why?
Well, so I made the decision then, well, I'll just take care of people who I've helped before.
Already helped
which
before.
I can be plenty busy doing that.
Yeah.
But then I started having students knocking on my door, and I realized they can't be midwives without taking care of first-time moms, because that's where all the education is. That's where all the work is to help them in their labor process. And they tend to have longer labors. So it's just a lot more work to do first babies. And I can remember after we'd gone through 2 or 3 first babies, and they're like looking at me like, oh my goodness, you're right. There's a lot of work here. Versus somebody who's had a baby before that barely gets in my front door. You know,
Right. They're like, I know what's going on.
I've had them in the driveway, in the car, on my front deck, you know, pretty much in every location in my house, in my backyard. Had 3 of them in my backyard this summer because the weather was
So you retired 11 years ago, and now
never
you've had
really
3 babies in
officially.
your
I was
backyard.
just talking about it.
Somebody tried to throw you a party.
Yeah.
Obviously, you weren't done yet. And so you still haven't. I think one of the things I read is like you haven't left a certain mile radius of our area in all of this time because you won't vacation far. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that was quoted a little incorrectly.
Okay.
God's just always faithful pretty much every year to give me a gap. So like this year, I have a couple of June births, but then I don't have anybody until August. Okay. So I'm going to fill that with a surgery, but it's okay. I mean, so
usually when you go do something or spend time for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, my husband and I, we'll get like a weekend out of town periodically, but it's never anything that we can pre-plan because they usually pop up when I have somebody who has a baby early, and so then I'm like, oh, I have 3 weeks off right now, and I have to have 3 weeks before somebody's due date because I'm licensed to attend births from 37 weeks gestation to 42 weeks.
So you have to be ready if it's time.
So I have to be on call that 5-week window. I can't go anywhere.
But you have a life too. You know what? I did not see, or do you have children of your own?
I do. I have 3.
How many do you have? Okay. Grandchildren?
No grandchildren.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah. I have a son who's going to be 52 this year. And then my next child would be 50 this year.
Okay.
She unfortunately passed away 6 years ago this week, actually.
Sorry.
And I gave birth to her at home and my son in the hospital. My youngest child was the fruit of a lovely woman who came to me looking for someone to parent her child. And so we adopted her, and she's been just an amazing gift. And so I've kind of had a variety of birthing experiences, a hospital birth, a home birth. And actually, we were planning a home birth with my youngest that we adopted, but her birth mother's water broke, and she didn't go into spontaneous labor.
Oh, okay.
Even though it was her 4th baby. And I feel that she had such a depth of love for my daughter that her heart couldn't let go.
Let go.
Yeah.
Your body wasn't going to do
Yeah.
it.
So she went in the hospital and was induced.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, induction's not fun.
No.
No,
Yeah.
we don't talk about that a lot
Yeah.
either, right? Okay, so you have children of your own. I know you guys are involved at VC Family,
Yes.
and you serve at the mission quite a bit. Is
Yes.
that right?
Quite a bit.
What do you guys do there?
Well, we do a lot of a variety of things. Like my husband Mike is actually the team leader for the volunteers. That every day there's a team of 2 people that take the mission van and go around and pick up food items from several different grocery stores, Costco. It's through that organization, Feeding America. And so they get food and bring it back to the mission. And the mission exclusively uses all that food donation to feed an incredible number of people every day. And my husband and I have a home group on Sunday evenings. And everybody in that group is an older individual. They're not married couples. And so we as a team once a month go and serve lunch on the 3rd Sunday of every month.
Okay.
And it's been so amazing because we have people in our group that were like, nope, I can't, I don't feel comfortable with that. And now they're just so amazing at doing it. I feel like when I go there, I'm there to give hope to the people that come through, and I have the opportunity to put food on their plate. But man, I get a lot of hope from being in that role. My husband and I were really involved with the establishment of the pallet shelters that they set up there. And so when they actually were preparing for their grand opening, they had an overnight that civic leaders were involved in. And we had been there that day cleaning those shelters. And I asked one of the people that I knew that was involved there, I said, so is there room for more people to stay here tonight? I mean, I didn't even know who was going to be there actually.
Yeah.
And they said, yeah, you guys want to stay? And so it was just my husband and myself with the mayors, the city councilmen.
I think Jack Muntz was there, and Jonathan
Jack
Anderson and Justin Wandrow, right? Yeah, there was a good group there.
So it was a great opportunity to get to meet some of those people because my nose is just to the grindstone, taking care of pregnant women.
Very busy
so
all the time.
I've never really been politically involved as a midwife in midwifery issues. I haven't done a lot of political involvement in general politics. So it was, and I've never been a person that pursued knowing all the right people. So it was kind of a real irony to be there. And
I feel like in our area, I think we're pretty blessed because they're all pretty
relatively accessible.
Normal guys.
Yeah. So it was a great experience. And we actually met with Jonathan Anderson today. He's going to be involved in our event that we're having on Saturday.
Okay.
And we were laughing about that whole scenario.
What are you most excited for Saturday?
It's funny. When we first started having team meetings about planning this event, I was like, wow, it's just going to be so exciting to see people that I haven't seen for a long time, which is true. And then now, just in the build up to it and the publicity that's been going on and the things that I'm being involved in now, the emotion of the event is starting to be a reality to me. And I don't know who I'm going to be in that process and how I'm going to manage that and who I'll be after it.
Well, I hope you do it the way you do for women for their birth, right?
Well, that's my hope, but it's just
that you're empowered to be here. This is who I'm going to be today. I mean, I'm not enjoy it the way I want to enjoy it.
I'm not trying to control it or anything. It's going to be a journey of feeling that and going, wow. A weird thing about this whole deal is I tell people I'm going to have the opportunity. This is a weird thing to think about, but to kind of hear my obituary while I'm here. how many of us have that opportunity?
Mhm.
So I feel like, when I felt like God asked me to do this, I can just remember feeling like, why me, God? And it was like, because I'm asking you to.
Mhm.
And so when I look into this whole scenario, I think, wow, I guess all I've been doing is doing what you've asked me to. And
Mhm.
so I don't know that I feel like I deserve a pat on the back, because it's just been an amazing way to live my life.
Well, and you get to celebrate their stories, right? Which intertwine
Oh.
with yours.
Yeah.
I was thinking about, at a wedding, how the bride and groom don't eat, don't sit down, and my hope for you is you get to eat, if you will, sit down and enjoy it. That it doesn't just go by in a blur and you're like, what just happened? That you
Well,
get
one
to
of the-
visit and see people.
One of the things that the team did is they created a life-size cutout of me holding a couple babies so that in the photo booth area,
Yeah.
I would have liberty to not have to be there
The whole
for
time. I love it.
Yeah. So I actually have quite a few family members coming from out of town, and I told them, okay, well, they're here they're like arriving on Saturday afternoon, having to leave on Sunday afternoon. I said, okay, well, we're doing breakfast on Sunday because I want to have a little time
Yeah.
where I'll be able to visit with you guys.
Yeah.
And not have it be like at a wedding. That's
Great.
the analogy that I'm giving and
it's
thinking.
very-
It's
yeah.
been like planning a huge wedding.
It sounds like it.
And yeah, I'm kind of a detail-oriented person, so I just, when I have a vision about stuff, it's hard for me to go, okay, yeah, let's just not do that.
You kind of know how you want it to go.
Mhm.
When you travel around Redding, can you go anywhere without seeing someone you helped birth? Or
It's pretty rare.
I mean, I think it's a big number. I don't know the number, obviously, but it's probably a lot.
When I was dating my husband, he was a Rabba bus driver at the time. And so I would go and get on the bus and ride for an hour with him every day, because we met and 5 weeks later we married. And so I would ride the bus, and I'd see this really caring, compassionate man take care of people in our society that aren't always treated well.
Mhm.
And I was like, wow, I have a really unique opportunity to see this person in action in a way that I might not otherwise get to see.
Yeah.
And so his comment that counters that is like, yeah, well, every time we go shopping, we run into one of your clients, and then he has to listen to their, effusive
Everything.
expression of how glad they are to see me. And yeah, he's always like, okay, I guess you're legit.
I love that so my husband and I met January 1st and we were married by March 24th.
Oh, see?
So you guys were a little bit faster than us, which I've never met before.
Yeah, our first date was on Memorial Day weekend.
Okay.
And that my daughters end up setting up.
I was going to say, how did you guys meet? Okay.
So I'm not a person that steps into public things well on my own. I was widowed for 17 years, and it was a pretty tough journey for me.
Mhm.
Just being alone, developed feelings of anxiety that I'd never experienced in my life. Just that loneliness was really challenging for me, because I'm not that one that goes and initiates things
Mhm.
in public with people that I don't know.
Yeah.
So back when the Record Searchlight had the Date magazine, I saw a thing where there was going to be a kind of pub crawl from a mini Maxwell
Yeah.
place in Discovery Village
Okay.
to Wild Card Brewery
Okay.
on Pine Street in downtown. And people were supposed to bring bicycles. You'd have a beer at the Maxwell's.
Because
And then,
riding a bike with a lot of beer is a great idea.
well, only one.
Okay.
I don't know how many other people had. I think I had half of one. I'm not.
Yeah. No.
But anyway, but I saw that in the Date magazine, and I thought, my daughters, they both like to ride bikes and they like to drink beer. So I asked them, I said, you guys want to do this thing? And they said, yeah, that sounds like fun, Mom. So we took our bikes over to Mini Maxwell's, and we're sitting there, and lo and behold, my husband he got invited by a woman who was one of the spin instructors at the Y, and he was in her class.
Okay.
And she just Facebooked him and said, hey, this thing's happening. You should come. So he came, brought his bike, and ended up when we kind of ended up forming a group. And I think it had to do with the fact that my oldest daughter was an instructor at the Y. And so she knew this other instructor. We didn't know any other, we didn't recognize anybody else. So we sort of morphed into this group. Well, we take off, get onto the trail right at the trailhead at Dana Drive, and we're the on-ramp to Highway 44 going west. And literally we had gone maybe 100, 200 feet. And the woman who was the spin instructor, her front wheel clipped her husband's bike's rear wheel.
Someone's going to fall. I know.
And she went head over her handlebars, no helmet, hit her head, got a concussion, had a pretty good gash, had to go in and get, stitches and get taken care of. So here the person that my husband knew was all of a sudden out of the picture, but he did recognize my daughter from the Y. He didn't really know her. So when we got to Wildcard Brewery, my daughters and I, there was like a long banquette kind of bench along the wall. And so we sat down, one of them on either side of me, and we were just sitting there. And Mike comes over, he says, do you mind if I sit with you guys? And we were like, no, go ahead. So he sat across from me, and we started talking and found out that I think one of the first things that I found out about him was that he was a Christian. And I said, well, so am I. And then I said, where do you go to church? And he said, Pathway Church. And I said, well, so do I. And found out we even went to the same service. He would always usher on the opposite side of the auditorium.
We're just on the wrong sides of the church.
Wrong side of Plus, I wasn't yes, he was the kind of person that I would like to have in my life, but I wasn't really going to church for that purpose at all. And so it wasn't like I was looking. No. So that's how it started. But then I didn't give him my phone number at that point. I just said, if you happen to run into Leah at the Y, I'm sure she can give you my number. Played a little hard to get. It took a month before he got it.
5 weeks? I don't know about the hard to get.
Well, no, but it took him about a month before he could get my phone number. Yeah. And then once he came over on Memorial Day, we spent every day together until we got married.
Yeah. You knew. I think there comes a age and a maturity. If you meet later in life, you kind of know.
And if we had more time, our wedding story and all of that's pretty amazing.
I want to get that at another time. What do you remember about the very first birth that you did?
The main thing that stood out, if I think about it, was I was so excited to call my mom. I called her at 1:30 in the morning to tell her, Mom, I just delivered a baby. That was really a powerful moment when I think back on it, that I could share that with I was so excited to tell my mom that had happened. I think there was a lot of feeling about, what the heck are you doing, Nora? What? This is...
Internally?
Yeah. I just feeling like questioning.
So you kind of question yourself. And
yes, because I had this recognition that there was definitely a role of responsibility, that not so much that they had an expectation of me, but I had one of myself. That if I'm standing here extending my hands to catch this baby, that I needed to respect that, not just think it was something about ego or anything. It really was pretty pivotal, because then every time I'm at a birth, I have to have that thought again.
Yeah. Do you have any other, is there one birth that stands? I mean, there's so many, so I can't imagine, but is there one that changed you even more that you can remember after that?
Boy.
Too many stories.
Too many stories.
I can imagine. What is the hardest thing about what you do?
Well, the hours are really hard. Being on call 365 days of the year, 24 hours a day. People can't really relate to what that means. I had somebody who was a media person that came to a birth not too long ago, and she had turned her phone off. So when I was trying to get a hold of her, because the client was there in labor,
You're like, no, I couldn't schedule this.
no, you don't. You don't get to turn your phone off when you're on call. And she finally woke up to go to the bathroom and saw that she had messages from me, and literally walked in the door as the baby was coming out because she had her phone turned off.
She waited.
So that's a part of my lifestyle that it's.
So you married him in 5 weeks because he wouldn't have been able to understand that. I'm just thinking like how hard that would be to explain to someone new in your life, like, hey, so we're on call all the time.
Right.
This is what we're doing. I'm just going to lock you down so you don't get it.
He got immersed in it right away because I had clients do. And so if we had plans, they got canceled. And so,
yeah. He had to be willing to go along with that too. Yeah. What's the best thing about what you do?
The best thing is helping people have a tighter relationship with the Lord. That is really the best thing that I get to do. And it's been the best thing all my years, is to help people grow in their faith. Because this is a good one, So trusting God with these children that He's given us. Are we willing to trust Him that much? That we would even, like Moses, say, okay, Abraham, I'm gonna allow you to take my child as a sacrifice. And that's faith. That's faith saying, yeah, you're in control, God.
Yeah. If there's one last thing you would want to share, what would it be?
I've had an amazing life. I have been blessed to be present at this, I call it a treasure box experience. I think we all have treasure boxes where we put our monumental memories. And those treasure boxes travel with us throughout our life. And so it's very emotional to know that you are traveling around in people's treasure boxes. And that's the part of what I'm going to see this Saturday night.
That's pretty exciting. That's pretty exciting. And I hope you do get to be there as if it's not a wedding and enjoy it and listen and soak it up. Thanks for sitting down today.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. So this Saturday at the Anderson Fairgrounds from what time?
From 4 to 8 p.m.
Yeah, if you want to come join and see what's going on, and if you want to find out more, check out reddingmidwife.com/50 years.